Hey, what's up guys? It's Twice here, and today I have a very special video for you. This is going to be our Set 13 deck double feature of both a deck from myself and from Cross. Two decks that I think are rather similar, but also extremely fun to use. Cross and I played for maybe 3 hours straight on Sunday just with these two decks because they're super fun, they're new, and we've been looking forward to them since like September when Set 13 came out in Japan. Anyway, so I'm going to start off with my deck, one of my absolute personal favorites of all time, and that is, of course, Beast Deity. Set 13 brought amazing support for Beast Deity. However, I'm still running Riot Horn as the starting Vanguard, because even though we got Night Jackal, who when he stands he gets +3 and becomes an 8k booster, this card is frankly just better, because when a card in front of him stands, he stands as well. It's consistent, forcing your opponent to guard for 5 more, and he's unfortunately a target of things like Gatling Claw Dragon or cards that retire grade 0s like Lenshu, but he's still really good as a starting Vanguard and can just give amazing support and combo really well with cards like Ethics Buster Extreme, the new boss card. So I'm going to move on to my triggers. So of course we run 4 Beast Deity crits because there are special counterblasts in this deck, and then we run 4 Red Lightning, the damage on flipper from set 2 and the extra booster Infinite Phantom Legion. The deck isn't really that counterblast heavy, but being able to unflip damage is always nice. And because pretty much every card in this deck can be a stand trigger, if it is not a trigger, then we have an excuse to run more crits. But I also run 4 draws along with that, because, you know, hand control. And then, of course, 4 Beast Deity Rescue Bunny, the heal trigger. So, pretty standard trigger lineup. But it's understandable why you would run crits and draws, because everything in this deck can basically be a stand trigger with Ethics Buster Extreme, or it can just, with the extra crits and draws, can make Ethics Buster Reverse more potent as a restanding Vanguard. It just makes more sense to run crits and draws rather than stand triggers because it's so easy to stand anyway. Anyway, so we're going to move on to the grade 1 lineup here. And the first grade 1 we have is Beast Deity Max Beat, an awesome support card from set 13. His ability is that when he stands during your battle phase, you can special counterblast 1 Beast Deity and then stand a Nova Grappler rearguard. So that could be a Tough Boy, it could be just any non-Beast Deity, which is again why we have to run the Beast Deity triggers. The great thing about Max Beat is that he combos really well with Extreme. You can restand columns with him. I once had a column of Max Beats where I would stand 1, stand the other, and then stand like Hatred Chaos, and then stand Riot Horn. So for the cost of 2 counterblasts, you stand all of your rear guards. That's what awesome combos Beast Deities got as a result of set 13. And then on top of him, I run 4 Blank Marsh from set 9. His ability is when he boosts an attack that hits a Vanguard, he has a 7k booster, which is nice. Counterblast 1 card, put him in the soul, and then stand a Beast Deity. Very simple, provides nice pressure, 7k booster, nice grade 1 ride, just all around good card to run. 4 Max Beats and Blank Marshes can make for a really good grade 1 support lineup. Alongside them, I run 2 Tough Boys. Though not a Beast Deity, Tough Boy helps in that he allows Ethics Buster and his cross rides to swing for 21, which is of course a magic number. Although drive checking him is rather a disappointment, the fact is that I only run 2 in this deck, and 1 is probably going to be behind the Vanguard anyway, so it's not really all that much of a hindrance. And AK Vanillas, man, they help. That extra boost is always really nice to have. And then as for the Perfect Guards, I do in fact run 4 of them, as everyone always should. I only have 2 Solar Falcons right now, I just ordered 2 more in the mail, but I do have the extra Twin Bladers. I actually have 3 extra Twin Bladers now that I took 2 of them out of this deck. But for right now, until I wait for the Solar Falcons to come, it's a little bit more inconsistent, but it's really not that big of a problem. The only problem comes when drive checking them or discarding them for Ethics Buster Reverse. Still, however, we run 4 Perfect Guards, just always, every time. And then for the grade 2 lineup, it's kind of standard. We have, of course, 4 Beast Deity Hatred Chaos. I think this card is really interesting just because, I don't know, I think he has a funny personality to him. He looks kind of funny. He's the 12k attacker for Beast Deities, but of course, because we can restand our cards so easily, it means that we get the most use out of this card that we possibly can. 12k attackers are obviously really good for helping to kill 9k rearguards, which are all over the place. This card is a nice combo along with Blank Marsh and Max Beat, because Max Beat can restand him, and then you have a restanding 19k column, so you can kill rear guards really easily. Hatred Chaos is just a utility. You need him in every deck. 4 of them is for consistency. I love having this card in rear guard. I love having him in front of Riot Horn because that's a restanding 17k column. Still a nice number. And then, along with him, we run 4 Golden Anglets. He's from set 9. His ability is that when he stands during your battle phase, he gains +3. Though it may not seem as good as Hatred Chaos, the thing is that this ability can stack, so if you use him in combo with Ethics Buster Reverse, then he can stand as many as 2 or even 3 times, which I did do once because of the other grade 2 that I run. And it means that if you do get a trigger, then he can swing for like 20 by himself, so he doesn't need a booster, so that locking part of Ethics Buster Reverse's skill can be applied to the booster for Anglet. Simply, he's just another pressure card, he's more power. That's kind of what I like about Beast Deities, is that the grade 1s are nice support cards, and the grade 2s are power cards. However, there is an exception in the other grade 2 that I run, which is 3 Beast Deity Brainy Papio. His skill is that when his attack hits a Vanguard, it can be on either when he's attacking as a Vanguard or a Rear Guard. A special counterblast 1 Beast Deity, again that's why we run the triggers, and he can stand a Nova Grappler Rear Guard, so it can be either a Beast Deity or like a Tough Boy or something. He's really good in comboing with cards that get trigger effects, like Hatred Chaos, because then if you hit, then you can restand a column, because thank you Riot Horn, and that column has all of its trigger abilities and, again, is a fully restood column. So Brainy Papio is just, another combo card for Beast Deities. And the reason I run 3 of them and I don't run Damned Leo is that he's just more useful than Damned Leo. Damned Leo's a good grade 2 ride, but in my opinion he can be a better grade 2 ride. Alright, and then moving on to the grade 3s. Originally I was going to make this just an Ethics Buster Extreme deck, and then I thought that that was going to be a waste of the other Crossbreak ride that Bushiroad so graciously gave us in set 13. But of course I still run 4 Beast Deity Ethics Buster, because he does have 2 Crossbreak rides, and riding Ethics Buster on Ethics Buster is actually a really good strategy, because it guarantees 5 attacks every turn. That's why I used to do that in my old Beast Deity Ethics Buster Illuminal Dragon deck, which I had to modify for this one, obviously. Break Ride is Break Ride 10k to the Vanguard. When the Vanguard attacks, you stand the front row. He's really good for really any Nova Grappler deck, but of course, because he's a Beast Deity, he's, in my opinion, a little bit more suited for his own archetype, but alas, that's pretty much the only archetype that Nova Grappler gets in set 3, other than the Blouse, who have their own Break Ride. So, Ethics Buster works for Ethics Buster's purposes. And Ethics Buster is just amazing when you combo him with his 2 Crossbreak rides, the first of which is one of the scariest cards in the game, Deadliest Beast Deity Ethics Buster Reverse. The reason that this card is amazing is because you get off 8 attacks in 1 turn. The idea is that you Crossbreak ride, that means that your Vanguard now has 23,000 power on his own. The idea is that you attack with your rear guards first, and then you attack with the Vanguard, and then your units will stand again because of the Break Ride skill, and then his ability makes him stand again as a Vanguard, so the whole field is now restood. You got off 3 attacks, you're going to get off 3 more, except if you attack with the rear guards again, who might have trigger abilities at this point, and then attack with the Vanguard, then those rear guards will stand again. So, comboing again with cards like Golden Anglet, this card can be, as the name suggests, the deadliest card in the deck. It's very hard for an opponent to fully guard this turn. If you can get it off perfectly, you win. That's pretty much the way it is. And then you're at a 13k base, and he's actually pretty good to use on turns after the Break Ride, because he's still a restanding Vanguard. One that does require a large cost, but is still really useful. However, the card that you really want to end the game with is the other Crossbreak ride, my personal avatar, Strongest Beast Deity Ethics Buster Extreme. Especially if you run SPs, this card is just amazing. I mean, yeah. So, basically his ability is that when you drive check a grade 1 or higher Beast Deity, you stand a Nova Grappler rear guard. So again, it's not really discriminatory, it's only in the conditions of actually standing that unit you have to drive check a Beast Deity. He just lets you get off more attacks per turn. Consistent 5 attacks, if you get off triggers, then you get stronger restanding rear guards. You combo him with his rear guard support, it lets you restand your field for stronger attacks every turn. More attacks every turn. This card is the quintessential Nova Grappler. He stands things very easily. And, yeah, he does so for no counterblast. Although you do have to run a almost fully Beast Deity deck, that's not a problem because Beast Deities, kick ass. Anyway, so yes, that's my Beast Deity deck. I'm extremely proud of it. And now I'm going to move on to Cross's probably favorite deck as of right now until set 14 comes out, his Aqua Force deck, namely Tetra-Drive Dragon. He starts off with Officer Cadet Eric, who is the Grade 3 Searcher. We all know how those work. He's pretty useful in that he runs 3 different Grade 3s in this deck, Diamantes, Transcore, and Tetra-Drive. So, depending on what he needs, he can use Eric, and then he has damage on flippers, so the cost is able to be mitigated. But moving on to his triggers, he runs, first off, for Supersonic Sailor, the damage on flipper, which you're going to need for Tetra-Drive because he is rather counterblast heavy, and then 2 Jet Ski Rider, so 6 crits in total. And then on top of that, he runs the new Aqua Force draw trigger. It's basically like a Margal clone. Battle Siren Malika, I think is how you pronounce that. Just put it into the soul, give +3 to anything. It's really helpful for Tetra-Drive because Tetra-Drive is a restanding Vanguard. And then, of course, he runs the cutest draw trigger in the game, this adorable little otter thing. So 6 crit, 6 draw. And then, of course, 4 heals. This little sperm thing, he loves me. I got 3 heals when we switched decks in a fight using that heal trigger. It was actually kind of ridiculous. I got hit for 2 crits, got 2 heals, and then 2 turns later got hit for another 6 damage and then healed again. So, yeah, it's a fun card. So then for grade 1s, we run 3 Tier Knight Theo, the 8k vanilla. He boosts Transcore to swing for 21. It's as easy as that. He counterblasts 1 card. He can boost Tetra-Drive to swing for 21. 21k is a magic number, and 8k vanillas help you get there. And then for other grade 1s, we run 3 Wheel Assault, a new card that's Aqua Force got in set 13. His ability is at the end of the battle that he boosted, so the attack doesn't have to hit, thankfully. Then you can counterblast 1 card and choose 2 of your Aqua Force rearguards and change their positions. So it's really interesting, because this card lets you get off things like Basil. Even if you do run stand triggers, then you can get off more Basil-ish kinds of attacks. And he is a 7k booster, so it's just consistent power. Wheel Assault is a really good card for helping you get Tetra-Drive Dragon or effects like him off more easily. And then for the other grade 1s, we have 2 Mercenary Brave Shooter, the K-clone-ish for Aqua Force, because this card can work with like every Aqua Force deck, so long as the number of rested rearguards you have is 2 or less, then he swings for +3, which means that he's a nice 10k attacker to switch with cards like Basil or Diamantes. The other grade 1 that he runs is the Signal Penguin card. You call it Soul Blast 2 and then draw. It's just really good to have for Tetra-Drive because Tetra-Drive does require that you discard cards from your hand. And then, of course, on top of those, he runs, as every deck should, 4 Perfect Guards, until Quintet Walls come, in which some decks might want to run more Quintet Walls, some might want to run more Perfect Guards, but for right now, we are very simply only running Perfect Guards, and personally I think Perfect Guards are better, but some decks use Quintet Walls better, for instance Genesis, but that's for when set 14 comes out. Alright, and then for grade 2s, it's kind of a diverse lineup, but it's really fun in its lineup. We have 3 Basils. Basil's a quintessential Aqua Force card. If he is the first attack of the turn, he gets +2. That's only if he's attacking a Vanguard. But then he exchanges positions with the column behind him. So it's that classic attack, switch, attack kind of style. And he is really good along with this card, Tidal Assault, a new grade 2 that Aqua Force got in the set. Here's a really awesome early game strategy for facing opponents, because Tetra-Drive has often been criticized for not having a good early game. So this is the column. Let's say your opponent has like a 9k grade 2 Vanguard. So attack, this is for 10, they drop a 5, then you switch positions, then Tidal Assault attacks, this is for 9, so they have to drop another 5 if they didn't get a trigger, if they took a damage. His ability, if he does attack a Vanguard, then he can stand again with minus 5,000 power, so now he's only at 4. But if your Vanguard's drive check does happen to reveal a trigger, well then he can swing for 9 again. So that is 3, 5k forcing attacks that you get with 1 column. That's kind of what Aqua Force does. So it's a really nice combo, Basil and Tidal Assault. frankly, it's one that tends to get me with Beast Deities, because I don't want to lose my rear guards early. But yeah, it's a really good strategy. And then for the other grade 2s, he runs 3 Twin Strike Brave Shooter. He's the 12k attacker, I guess. Same thing as Mercenary Brave, so long as the number of rested units you have are 2 or less. He does get the +3. Can run really well with any Aqua Force deck, and can combo with cards like Basil pretty well. Then he runs 2 Carlos, because Carlos is a damage unflipper. He's a really good grade 2 ride, because if you do manage to get it off, you can use Eric's skill, and then if his attack hits as the Vanguard, you can unflip it. So it's like getting that ability off for free. And then as for the grade 3s, we begin with his 2 Storm Rider Diamantes. Diamantes is from set 8, one of the first awesome Aqua Force cards. He's like a grade 3 version of Basil. His attack is the first one of the turn, he gets +2. So he swings for 11, and since 11k Vanguards are all the Vanguards these days, that means that he can pretty much force guard for any Vanguard. Except, of course, for cross rides. Beast Deity, of course. Anyway, so the other grade 3s that he does run are, of course, 3 Transcore. Transcore is the Break Ride, an awesome Break Ride, actually. When you Break Ride, +10k to the Vanguard, and when your Vanguard attacks, okay, either your opponent discards 1 card and then guards, or they don't discard a card, and your Vanguard gains an extra crit, and then they can't call any units to the Guardian Circle at all, so it's like, do I discard and then guard, or do I take 2 damage? He's really good in combo with things like Maelstrom Reverse when it comes out, but the reason that Tetra-Drive is really useful along with this Break Ride is because Tetra-Drive is a restanding Vanguard, which means that you're going to force your opponent to discard at least 2 cards in that turn. Which brings us, of course, to the final card, our boss, Tetra-Drive Dragon. Tetra-Drive's Limit Break is kind of complicated, but it actually makes sense for Aqua Force. So, if he is attacking second, then he gets an ability, after he's done attacking, of Auto, Vanguard, Counterblast 2, and then discard 2 units from your hand, so basically you're not getting additional cards from a second drive check. And then, if one of your rearguards attacked, if that rearguard attacked as the 4th battle of that turn, then he can stand again to attack for basically the 5th battle of that turn. So, it's, again, kind of complicated in the way that you have to order things, but because this is Aqua Force and they don't have trouble getting off the number of attacks, that means that Tetra-Drive will be able to use his ability at least a couple times per game. Unfortunately, it is Counterblast 2, so things like Carlos and Supersonic Sailor are necessary in order to unflip damage. However, this deck does run pretty consistently, and the turn where you Break Ride Tetra-Drive over Transcore Dragon is really, really bad for your opponent, because they're dropping cards like none other. It's a really good deck. So these are our 2 Set 13 decks. Aqua Force and Nova Grappler got some amazing support. I love my Beast Deities, and personally I'm starting to warm up to Tetra-Drive a little bit more, because I've used him a little bit, and Cross has been showing me how the strategy works. So yeah, we have some more Dimension Police cards now. We're going to get a Reverse Ayesha deck up for you soon as Odd gets his last 2 Perfect Guards. And then we will continue to move on. Actually, JD's almost done with his Chaos Breaker decks, so hopefully we'll have that deck up for you soon. Anyway, have a great day and keep card fighting, guys. We'll see you next time.